Welcome to part two of Cross-Cultural Communication Expertise. I'm Deborah Levine, the editor and founder of the American Diversity Report and the award-winning author of the Matrix Model Management System, Guide to Cross-Cultural Wisdom. I'm here today to continue your path along cross-cultural expertise. What does that mean, that communication expertise? It means that you're able to provide information to diverse teams, that you can share ideas and be creative with them. It means that you can express yourself so that you're understood and that you can understand others when they talk from their cultural point of view. This is what's required, right, of a diverse team in order to make the most of that cultural diversity. It applies to organizations, associations, universities, corporations, agencies of government, and many more entities than that. I suspect you're one of them, or maybe you belong to many of them. But the idea of cross-cultural communication is part of today's ability, right, to do business and do networking across cultural boundaries. So when we communicate, what does it mean we need to do? Well, the first thing is to understand, right, the nature of our culture. Are we a high context culture or a low context culture? What does that mean? Well, if you are in a community and a culture that is used to talking to each other and not many other people, you're probably in a high context culture. That means you don't need to explain yourself a lot. It means that you can use gestures rather than words and still be very well understood. It also means that if an outsider comes in, they may not understand you because you assume so many things and you're not even aware of those assumptions and they're lost. So if you're in a low context situation, it means that you are among people that maybe don't understand your culture that well, and they want to know specifics, so we get bullet points. And we have strategies by numbers. We have all kinds of ways in which to explain ourselves and not use the shortcuts, the slang, the body language necessarily. And that's a low context situation. For the diverse teams, you're probably in a low context environment, which means you need to explain yourself well. For the high context one, you're going to look at oh, the language being secondary to the tone of voice and the gestures and the smiles. But people are still going to pay attention to that. So yes, all of those nonverbal communication forms are part of cross-cultural expertise. But for this session, we're going to look at the words, the language first, and look at how we use words and when we don't use them well, and make sure that we make the most of our conversations, our discussions, our presentations, so that our diverse teams are as energized and inspired as possible and as confused in fewer occasions as possible. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, let's take a look at those words. What are they? In a high-text culture, you can use slang and idioms and technical language that may be very common to you. In a low-context culture or environment, you don't want to go there. If you do use slang, which are idioms and phrases that are very comfortable for you in your native environment, but not so much out there in a global economy, then you'll need to make sure that you can explain them quickly. And people, if they look confused, pay attention to that and offer that explanation. So if you use words like we do in here in Southeast America, folks, and that covers everybody, right? Folks, right? We may need to be more specific when we talk to people from around the world. Folks is just very comfortable for us, but it takes us a little bit out of our comfort zone to be able to explain it. We talked in the first session about conflict management and comfort zones. Continue your practice in labeling your own comfort level as you go through cross-cultural communication exercises, remembering that number one is ideal and it's perfect and everything is good. Number two is it's okay. Maybe there are a few things that I wouldn't agree with, but it's okay. I can live with it. Number three is I'm not happy at all. I'm not going to be able to maintain this unless something changes. And if it changes for the better, you come down to a 2. If it changes for the worse, you go up to a 4, and it's a nightmare, and you're at an impasse. And your diverse team is not going to function well if there's even one person at that level, at level number 4. So you want to be careful about the emotion behind your words, and the examples of this, right, are right there in front of you on another person's face. How are they looking to you? Are they looking, are they looking, those are very good clues that you need to look at your cross-cultural communication in greater depth. So if we eliminate some of the idioms, the sayings, the cute words that we're used to, what then else can we do? Well, let's take a look at the issue of informal and formal. When we are formal with people, we call them Mr., Mrs., perhaps Sir even. But it's always a matter of the last name, not the first name. So that's a formality that we might use on anyone that we don't know well. And if they choose, they can say, please call me, and they'll give you their first name. If that's the case with you, you have the same opportunity. Someone calls you Mrs. Deborah Levine or Mrs. Levine, then you can say, please call me Deborah. Notice that I did not offer a very cute nickname, Debbie. That's not who I am. And I would recommend that you don't use nicknames at first, unless the person specifically lets you know that it's okay with them to use it. Now, here in the South and the United States, nicknames are very popular and you'll get to use them almost immediately. But there are many cultures in which you will never use a person's nickname. It belongs to family, loved ones, close friends, and that's it. Be aware of that because it comes with the introduction. And the introduction is so important because, right, it's the first example of cross-cultural communication expertise. The moment you say hello and introduce yourself is the moment that it starts. And that impression lasts for a very long time. So when you introduce yourself, keep that in mind. Keep it as the signature moment of the relationship that you're about to build with somebody that you've not known before. And you will understand better in that regard how important it is to pay attention to the words that you use, the address that you use for that person, and even the nonverbal cues you give. Are you going to smile slightly? Are you going to grin? Hi! Are you going to have a blank face? Hello. All of the nonverbal cues go with the situation that you find yourself in. Formal, informal. Lastly, the tone of voice. Is it going to be aggressive? Hi. Is it going to be sweet? Hello. Is it going to be very professional? Hi there. Think about what you want to convey in all the elements of cross cultural communication at your disposal. And practice. Practice on a friend or even an imaginary friend how you are going to introduce yourself. This is a wonderful way in which to establish who you are by the fullness of cross-cultural communication expertise that you display right from the beginning. Now, as we go further, we want to make sure that we maintain the attitude, the persona that we have established. We can add some informality to it, but do that slowly, gently, so that people can get used to who you are. That means that maybe you will be diplomatic as opposed to pointed in your approach to communication. When you're diplomatic, you have a more elaborate way of speaking. For example, I would like to propose that we do this project in this manner in order to get the best possible results. If you're really pointed, you can say, we're going to do it this way because this is the best. You can see that there's probably a lot of room between one and the other, so you judge with your person that you're looking at, hearing where you want to be in the spectrum from very pointed to very diplomatic. Now, I have a soft voice. The tone of the voice matters. And my soft voice means that it comes across as a bit more diplomatic than most people. It means that I can veer into the pointed a little further before it becomes extremely pointed, because the tone of the voice moderates it, modifies it to be more diplomatic. If you do not have a soft voice, be aware that this is probably an element in how you're coming across. And be careful about being too pointed too soon, unless that's really truly what you want to convey. So some of it is up here. What is it that you want as a result of that communication? And plan for it with what you know about cross-cultural communication in general and what you know about your own personal mode of communication, and combine the two. And that's our second lesson in cross-cultural communication. And best of luck to you to find your best, greatest spot in the cross-cultural communication spectrum. Good day.